confirm you can see the installation?
Yes, now we can see.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is a download package from the GitHub that we saw. And once you get it, you just double click on it to install it, agree to the license, terms and conditions, and click on install. So like I said, if you have previously installed it, you might get a notification that it exists on your machine. If not, the installer should run to completion. And as you can see, it is pretty fast and straightforward. So once that is done, you close the particular installer. So from there, we are going to go back to GitHub again. Just give me a minute.
Looks like I'm not seeing what everyone is seeing.
It's coming up shortly. I was just switching between screens. So we have already, you can see the DWAPI for Windows instructions. How many of us have successfully downloaded and installed the .NET Core? I hope we have. In case you run into any issues, kindly just put it on the chat and you'll be assisted by someone. So once you're done with the .NET Core, you need now to install DWAPI. So you click on the link and it downloads automatically. So it will not open another page. It will just download it for you. So you can see the DWAPI installer has downloaded, and I'm now going to navigate to the folder where that is. So to launch the DWAPI installer, once you navigate to the installation package, you just need to double click on it. Once you double click, you'll be prompted with a prompt that tells you that Windows has protected your PC. I am hoping we are seeing this particular prompt. So if you get such a prompt, Windows protected your PC, just click on run anyway. Do not prevent the installer from running. So you select run anyway. And once you do that, so just a minute. I have to keep switching between the screens. Sorry for that. So once you launch the installer, it gives you an alert, and first and foremost, you're told the versions of which you should be running. So this is very important, especially going forward, because for people who will be migrating, I think one of the prerequisites is to send data before migration. So you have to have IQ Care on version 2.2.1 at a bare minimum, and the rest of the installers, as you can see from that screen. So from here, you connect. Yeah, you click on next again. Sorry, the installer seems to be unsharing the screen, so I'll just keep sharing it. The folder by default is in the program files under Palladium group and DWAPI. It's important to note that because every so often when you're troubleshooting and you have to review things like logs and the rest, that is the location where we find the logs. So again, you go next. And finally, you click on install. So that process basically should run pretty fast, and you'll have your DWAPI setup complete. So once you complete, you're going to see that completing DWAPI setup, and you click on finish. And with that, you basically have completed the installation of DWAPI. So from there, we are going to now look into the configuration options. And for Windows, from the presentation, we saw that we have two configuration options. We have the one where you can do Windows setup where you have IQ Care. You also have a second setup where you have KenyaEMR running on Ubuntu, and you have DWAPI running on Windows. So we are going to look at both of the scenarios. So just a minute. Give me a minute. So once you have set up your DWAPI, it shows an icon on the desktop. That is named DWAPI, and upon launching this particular icon, you're directed to the DWAPI page. Let me launch my DWAPI. Just a minute. No problem. Just give me 1 minute as we finish this. Sorry for that. Just a minute. I'm launching it. Yeah, so I think the problem that we ran into is the .NET framework sometimes requires a reboot of the machine. So we might need to reboot for it to basically pick those settings. But I'm getting a workaround to that. So just a few minutes. I think in the meantime, if there are any questions, we could be raising any issues that we might have had so far in our installations.
Just I hope as we wait for Maureen to sort that out, I believe everyone also, everyone has his setup going so that we do this together. Where you have a challenge, please post your team viewer or any desk ID. Our team will log in and help you resolve. Okay, in the meantime, I think as we wait and as your setup is running, I think we can just take a quick roll call for the partners who are not there the first time. So I'll just run through the ones that didn't acknowledge. Then when you are here, please just acknowledge and we continue. So the first one is UMB Pact Timiza. Do we have anyone from UMB Pact Timiza? Anyone from Afya Jijini? Afya Jijini? Anyone from Hope Worldwide? Hope Worldwide. Okay. Ngima for sure.
Present.
Karibu sana. The next one is Health Strat. Okay, ICAP. CHS Shinda, anyone? Okay. UMB Pact Endeleza. Absent. How about Afya Pwani? And lastly, Elvis Tita Raja. Okay. Yeah, so I think we should continue. Okay, Afya Jijini confirms that they are in. Let me just update that. Okay, Rajab, that is noted. I've already marked Afya Jijini present. Thank you. I don't know how far, Mariri, you are. Mariri, if you can hear me, are you ready? That could be network problem. Okay, so I think as we wait for Mariri, maybe I think that could be an internet issue. I don't know if Leon, you want to take over as we wait for Mariri? Because of time, I guess maybe Leon can continue as we wait for Mariri.
I hope I'm loud and clear. I hope you can hear me. So I'm hoping you can hear me much better right now. So now I'm just, as we wait for Marie, can move on to the Linux environment where we are just going to install DWAPI on an Ubuntu 16 machine and see how that works. Then later on we can pick up to Windows. So before I start, we are going to move to Linux. I believe we are we have our Ubuntu machine running for those who have virtual machine from yesterday. We had set this up yesterday. So we should be switching over to our from Windows. Let's all now try and switch over to our Linux environment. So let's share in. And log in. So all those who can see my screen say aye, aye, aye.
Yo, yo, yo.
Ay, ay, ay.
I hope tuko pamoja. Are we all on Ubuntu? We are all on Linux, correct? Nani amebaki nyuma? Tusibaki nyuma. Pam? Kila mtu na Linux yake, sisi wote kwa Linux yangu, kwa Ubuntu yangu. Then I believe silence means all of us are on Ubuntu, Sindo? Okay. Now, before I start, I'm just going to give you some brief background of what we are going to do. So, the DWAPI that we are running is a .NET application. And for .NET, it is on Linux because .NET is a Microsoft and it is a Windows thing. So for us to make sure that DWAPI is able to run on Linux, we have to install it inside a container. So the container that we are going to install it inside is called Docker. Docker is an equivalent of is like the VM, the virtual machine that we had yesterday, whereby you have a machine running on Windows, but you can install a software or an application in a virtual machine that is installed on the Windows machine. So basically what we are going to do right now, the first step that I'm going to take you through is to install Docker. After we've installed Docker, we are going to install DWAPI and do the configurations. I hope tumeelewa. So I'm just going to take you on how. The first thing first, let us now download Docker and install it. Hope to Coco Linux. So I'm just going to show you an easy way of how to do this. First of all, we are going to the web browser. I'm going to take you to the place where we have the SOPs for doing this. So I'll just open my browser, Firefox, and once you're there, just Google Docker Hub. Once you get there, this is the landing page of Docker. This is the Docker website. So Google Docker Hub, move here. Maybe if you Google, it will bring you results in Google. Just from the results that you've gotten, look for hub.docker.com and access this. Now, once I get to Docker Hub, there is this part here of searching. You just search for DWAPI, DWAPI. It will bring you different options. You go on and select KenyaEMR/DWAPI. Now, this is where we have put all the commands that you need and all the resources that you need to install DWAPI on Docker in Linux. So we said that the first step is to install the container, Docker. You cannot install DWAPI without the container. So from here, you will see that we have the different Docker setups for the different operating systems. So we recommend that we run it on Ubuntu 64-bit. So the first step is to download Docker if you have not already downloaded and installed it. So just click the link. Just click OK. And it usually just takes a few minutes. It is already completed. So I'm running Docker version 17. I hope tuko pamoja, nisiwache mtu nyuma. Now, once I'm done with I've downloaded Docker, that was the first step. The next step, we are going to install Docker. So I hope all of us have opened the SOP. We are all together in this page. When you look at the second item on the second list there, this is what we use to install Docker. So to install Docker, we run this command here, sudo dpkg-i and path to the package.deb file. So this, we are going to do it on the terminal. So I'll just minimize this and open my terminal. Let me use this. And open my terminal. So we are going to run that command so that we can install Docker. So it was sudo dpkg-i. Then after that, we need to get the path. We need to get the path of the package. Where once the package was downloaded, where was it saved? So for me, the package is on the downloads folder. So I'll just go to the downloads folder. And here it is, Docker. Anything that you download will go to the downloads folder. You can either choose to copy it or move it to the desktop or the home folder, just a place where you can easily access it. So an easy way to get the file path, you can just select it and drag and drop it on the terminal. It will give you the file path. So from here, I'm seeing that the file path is home, test, downloads, and the file is Docker. So once I've drag and dropped it, I'll just remove the apostrophes at the end. And in the front, let me just do this so that we can all see. And in the front, and press enter. I'll be prompted for my sudo password. Then I'll install Docker. So what you need to know to download, you will need internet first of all to download Docker. So once it's downloaded, the installation process, you do not need internet. Now, once I'm done with that, let's go back to our SOP. Now we've already installed Docker. Now we want to update or upgrade Docker to the latest version, if that's not it. So we are going to run these two commands. First of all, we will run sudo apt-get update to just make sure that the repositories that we have in our Ubuntu are up to date. Then after that, we apt-get and upgrade to the latest version of Docker. So all this is done on the terminal. So I'll go back to my terminal. Start with sudo apt-get update. Sorry. I'm sure we are familiar with this from yesterday. So just to make sure everything is in place, so that when I try and pull the latest version of Docker, I do not hit any snags. So that is done. Let me just do this so that we are all together. So after we update it, we're going to run sudo apt-get upgrade docker -ce. So it will seems that the Docker version that I'm running is not up to date. So I will just say yes. For upgrading the Docker to the latest version, you need internet for this. So it doesn't take long, it takes quite a few minutes, depending on this, also on the speed of your internet. So as it continues, I don't know if there is any question. Tuko pamoja? Hello, Ama, you can't hear me, mnanisikia?
Hello, hi Leo.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yes, I think the steps are a bit fast. I don't know. Can we get the recorded video later on?
Yeah. The video will be there. Eh? Sorry. Nikienda haraka sana, you slow me down. Anyone else? And also just, I'm just following the SOP. I hope all of us have opened this. I'm just going through these steps. So usiachwe nyuma. Ya nani memaliza? Seems my internet today. So we also I think we've from the chat I've seen that we've shared the YouTube channel. All of these videos are there. So don't be afraid to go to YouTube and subscribe and share and like. No. The link is in the chat. So we can also get them on the National Data Warehouse Resources page. So, but we will also share this video. Good, it's done. So we have installed Docker and we have upgraded it to the latest version. I hope tuko pamoja. Should I wait for anyone before we continue?
Yes, please. It's still downloading.
Or it's still downloading or upgrading?
Upgrading.
Or upgrading, okay. Let's just give it a few. Silas, I can see you've gotten an error. Just kindly wait until your machine has not yet finished updating. Yeah, just give it some time. Let it finish updating so that you can run the next process. I don't know, is it for the guys who are still waiting for, is it done? Or should we give it like 2 more minutes? Just in the interest of time. Okay, let's give it a few more minutes. Matthew, yako imemaliza? So hopefully tumemaliza. I think in the interest of time, we can continue. All those who are ready to continue, say aye.
Hi. Hi, Samit.
The ayes have it. Only one person is ready. Eh?
Yes.
Okay, now, I think just in the interest of time, we'll just go slowly. Hope we will catch up for those who would have left behind. Now we are done with installing Docker. As we had said, that was the first step. We have installed Docker and upgraded it to the latest version. So the next step is now to install DWAPI on Docker. So we'll still just go back to our SOP that we had earlier. Just follow it. Now we'll start with the new installation. The second I hope is set up. So basically just to install DWAPI, just this command. So the way Docker works, you have to create an image. We have already created the image for Docker. So we are just pulling the image from Palladium repositories where into our local instance, that is into the Docker we have installed so that it can run on Docker. So I'll copy this, go back to my terminal, paste it there. It will prompt me for the password. So first of all, it will look for the image locally that is in your local machine. And if it doesn't find it there, it will look for it. It will start look for it from the internet, from the repositories. Now, as you can see, it's just downloading it. So you need internet for this, huh? It doesn't take long. So once it finishes pulling an image, it will let you know that it's complete. So that's it. We are done with downloading DWAPI. Once when you run that command, it will download DWAPI and install it in your Docker instance. Huh? So let's just go back. So that was all for downloading. Once I'm done with that, I want to DWAPI has been downloaded, and it. So I want to access DWAPI on my browser. Eh? So to access DWAPI, I'll use HTTPS // local hosts /5753. So let me just take this. So that is the URL. To access DWAPI on your browser, you go to HTTPS // localhost /5753. The port is 5753. Once you access it, you will get it will give you like you need to accept this because we are using HTTPS, which is secure. We are just we are trying to access DWAPI securely. So it will throw an exception on the browser for you. It's just a warning, it's not an error. So just click on advanced, because it's trying to look for the SSL certificate and it's not finding it. So it will give you it will just throw an exception to just trying to warn you. So you accept the risk and continue. And there we go. We have launched DWAPI on the browser. I hope tuko pamoja. Tuko pamoja? Nani ame launch? Is there anybody who has launched this?
Yes, I have managed over this end.
Okay. Only one person? Ama tuna launch pamoja na hii yangu?
Tuko sawa, tume launch pia hapa.
Okay. Sawa, thank you. Now, we are done with the installation of DWAPI. Now we need to do the configuration settings. So, because we are running DWAPI on Linux, we need to do a database connection. And DWAPI needs to create its own database. So, this is how DWAPI works. DWAPI pulls data from the OpenMRS, from the KenyaEMR database, pulls the data from there, loads it into its own database. Once the data is loaded into its own database, that is when you're now able to push data to the National Data Warehouse. So you need to understand that there are two connections involved. First of all, we need a connection to the EMR, so that DWAPI can access the data in the EMR. Once it has accessed the data in the EMR, it will pull the data, dump it in its own database. DWAPI needs to we need to create a database for DWAPI, whereby it pulls the data from the EMR database, dumps it into its own tables. Now, when the data is loaded into the DWAPI tables, you are now able to push the data into the National Data Warehouse. So the first thing that we are going to do, there are some configurations that we need to make. We need, first of all, because DWAPI is running on Docker, and Docker is like a foreign application. We need to make sure that it can see the KenyaEMR database. The KenyaEMR database is on MySQL. So what we are going to do, we are going to create a DWAPI user. We are going to go to MySQL, create a DWAPI user, and give the user a password. Once we've created the user and given them a password, we are going to give him privileges to access the database and pull data. So that is the next step that we are going to do. So we need to log into our MySQL. I hope tuko pamoja, I'm not going too fast. We are going to create a user in MySQL, and the user will be known as DWAPI, and we are going to give him a password. The password is DWAPI. This is very important. User is DWAPI, password is DWAPI. All of this is in the SOP. So once we've done that, we are going to give them privileges to access data and to just all privileges to edit data in the database and pull it to access the KenyaEMR database and pull the data to the DWAPI database. Tuko pamoja, eh? So let's go back to the terminal. Just clear this. So I'm going to log into MySQL. The command for logging into MySQL is MySQL -u user. The user is root -p and I input my password na niko ndani. I hope we all remember my SQL password from yesterday. So once I'm here, I hope sorted kwa pamoja. If you cannot see my screen, just kindly refer to the SOP. Let me just take you there. We are here. Tuko hapa. DWAPI database user in MySQL. We are going to do step 2 and 3. Create a DWAPI database user for MySQL and assign privileges to the DWAPI database user for MySQL. So we are going to start with this. Create user DWAPI at %sign identified by DWAPI. So this means we are creating a user DWAPI, that is the user, at %, that is the user group. So % means at everything is going to be able to access all the user groups, identified by DWAPI. The password is DWAPI. So we are creating a user DWAPI and we are giving him a password DWAPI. So let's all just run that. So okay, for mine it has given me an error because I already have the DWAPI user. So in your case, you should not be getting an error. You should be getting it. Should be telling you that the query is okay and the rows that have been affected. Is there anybody getting an error on this? Imekubali? Ama tulibaki nyuma? Eh? Hello? Can someone confirm if they're okay?
Tuko sawa, tuko sawa.
Tuko sawa, eh? Ah, yeah. We've done the first one. So back to our SOP, we are going to grant all privileges on to DWAPI, and remember to add with the grant option. This is a higher privilege because we said that DWAPI is going to create a database in MySQL. So it's privileges so that it can create, DWAPI user can create the database, the DWAPI database. So just run grant all privileges on star.star to DWAPI at % identified by DWAPI with grant option. So if you run that, should give you this. Then finally, to save our changes, we are going to run the final one, flash privileges. Press enter. Should be okay. Tumeona venye privileges inaandikwa, eh? I think this is American English. I believe our brothers from the lake can confirm this for us, eh? Now, once I'm done with this, We are done with the MySQL part. I'm going to exit. Just type exit, and you will exit MySQL. Now we have created the, we started by installing Docker. That was our first step. After installing Docker and upgrading it, we installed DWAPI on Docker. After installing DWAPI on Docker, we have created a DWAPI user in MySQL and granted them privileges. So the next step, MySQL has some sort of security measure that does not allow it to connect to like foreign or for any remote application to connect to it. So DWAPI is on Docker, and Docker is like it's a container seen differently, not like the local host. So we need to disable this MySQL feature that does not allow remote access to it. So we are going to move to our MySQL configurations file. I'm going to show you how to go there, and we are going to remove the bind address. The bind address, we are just going to remove it or comment it out so that it can allow for remote connection or remote access to MySQL. So to get there, access it, we are going to use gedit. So it's going to be sudo gedit etc etc, sorry, not default, etc MySQL. The file that we are editing is MySQL configuration file. Tuko pamoja? Haya, when you do this, just press enter. Prompt for the password. So you should be getting something that looks like this. I know when you open, I'm suspecting some of us might not be getting a file that looks like this. So if you have a file that looks like this, I'm just going to show you all of them. If you have a file that looks like this, or on the file that you have, I want you to look for this line, bind address. So if you have the bind address, just add a hash. For me, I had already done this. It's usually like this. Those who have it, I know it looks like that. So instead of removing the line, deleting it completely, because maybe in the future you might need it, you just add a hash. This is just to comment it out. This means that MySQL will not read this line. So you have this. If you can see the bind address, just add a hash. Once you've added it, save. The save button is on your top right. If you've saved it, you can close. If you do not see the bind address on the file that you've opened, on the very bottom part, we can go back, just go back to the SOP. If you cannot see your bind address, just go back to the SOP. Just close what you have. Do not save. Just close the my.cnf file. Go back to the SOP, and under part B, you will see this line, bind hyphen address is equals to star. So pick this up, open your configurations file, add it, and then save. I hope all of us have done that. Once you've saved and closed it, go back to your terminal. Don't worry about this. This is just a gedit warning. Go back to the terminal just to make sure that all the changes that we've made have taken effect. We are going to restart MySQL. I believe all of us remember how to do that. So let's do it together. Sudo service MySQL restart. So it should restart successfully. If there is anyone, is there anyone getting an error? If you're getting an error at that point, umegonga mwamba kidogo, just ask for assistance. Tuko pamoja? Kuna mtu amegonga mwamba?
Tuko pamoja.
Aya. So we are done with the MySQL configurations. Now we are moving on to DWAPI. Now, turudi kwa browser. We go back to DWAPI. Sorted kwa hapa. So now we are going to give DWAPI we are going to do the DWAPI database connection. So we said that DWAPI needs to create its own database. So that is what we are doing here. I need you guys to remember this, that we are going to connect to two databases. The first one, the application needs to connect to its own database. After it has created the DWAPI database, needs to connect to it. Once that is done, we are also going to connect, the application needs to connect to the EMR database where it's getting the data from. So this on the dashboard, this is the landing page of DWAPI. We have the dashboard, configuration, and dockets. We are going to get to that. So on the dashboard, we are going to do the DWAPI database connection. It is written there. So this is the connection to the DWAPI database, not to the EMR database. So I'm going to show you how we are going to do the connections, and I hope we are all doing them together. So we are going to start with the database provider. We have two. We have MS SQL and MySQL. So we are going to connect. The database provider that we are using is MySQL. So select MySQL. Now, for server, we need to give the instance name. Those who are familiar with IQ Care or IQ, when you are doing the connection strings or the connection settings, we usually put here the name, the server name. But here for us, we are going to put in the IP address. So you're going to put in your IP address, or we are going to put in the Docker IP address, because the Docker IP address is constant, static, never changes. So I'd prefer we put in the Docker IP address, because you know your IP address can keep on changing. When you connect to another network, it keeps on changing. So you will have again to come here and change to the IP address. So we are going to put in the Docker IP address. And how do I get this IP address? Let's go back to our terminal. So to get this IP address, I'll just go to the terminal and type if config, config, and press enter. It will give me the connection settings, and I will look for this Docker O. If you've installed Docker, you need to be seeing this, Docker O or Docker 0. And I'm going to pick the inet address, this. So the IP is 172.17.0.1. So I can choose to copy it, or I can just go and type it there. So I go back to my browser. Put it there. Now the port, we are going to put the default MySQL port, that is 3306. Then the user, we created a user known as DWAPI, and we gave them a password, and the password was DWAPI. So once you've done the connection strings, you can verify the server. If you verify the server, you need to get that message, connection successful to server, okay. If you do not do it correctly, you might get an error like this, access denied. It's either you've gotten the server name wrong, or the password for the DWAPI user is wrong, or the DWAPI user does not exist in your database. So you should be getting that. Once you verified your server, you save. Once you've saved the connection settings that you've done, you will be prompted to restart DWAPI in order to effect the changes made to the systems. Now, this refers to restarting the DWAPI service. So DWAPI is in Docker. So you don't just restart it like the way we restart the normal services. So we are going to restart the whole container, that is the Docker service. Then we are going to restart the DWAPI application service that is inside the Docker. Now, at this point, when you restart the service, that is the point that DWAPI now creates its database. So we are just going to restart the service. Then we will go and check if DWAPI database has been created on the database. Hope tuko pamoja. Now, I'll go back to my terminal. I will start by restarting Docker. So it's going to be sudo service Docker restart. Once you've done that, Docker has been restarted. Now we are going to restart DWAPI, and this is how you restart DWAPI. You say sudo Docker restart DWAPI. So it will write there DWAPI. Once that is done, you know that it has restarted successfully. Once that is successful, we go back to our browser. So on the browser, just refresh the web page. You should be getting something like that. You might refresh and it kind of takes some time. Just give it a few minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, and refresh again. It should give you this. Sote tuko hapa ama? Tuko hapa pamoja?
Yes, tuko pamoja.
Aya, we are here, eh? Now, just to confirm whether the DWAPI, if you see this panel here for the DWAPI matrix, eh? This means that the database has already been created. If you are not seeing this, then the database has not been created. And just to confirm that your database has been created, you can go back to MySQL, just log in. Let me just show you quickly. It's not a must you do this. And say show databases. You'll see the DWAPI database has been created. Now, we have already done our connection to the DWAPI database. Now we need to do a connection to the EMR database. So to do this, I will come here on the configuration panel and select EMR settings. Once I select EMR settings, I will have the different EMRs with me. So just to make sure that we could select the correct EMR, the EMR that is in red is the default EMR. Eh? So you need to make sure that you've selected, in this case, KenyaEMR as your default EMR. Once that is done, you move here to the actions. You'll see the KenyaEMR database protocols on your right. So I will just come here to actions. Now I want to do a connections from my machine to where the EMR is. So I will start with the host. This was already there. So as you can remember, this is I've given this is the Docker IP address. It also serves as the local host because I'm running my EMR on the same machine that the DWAPI is running. If it is running on a different machine, I have to change this and put the IP address. So just make sure you've selected the DBMS as MySQL. The host input the same IP that we put on the dashboard when we are doing that DWAPI database connections. The port remains to be 3306. The user is DWAPI and the password is DWAPI, and the database is OpenMRS and advanced properties like that. So once you've done all of this successfully, just verify that everything is correct. You should get a message that the connection was successful. If you get this, you should be able to save. And you can move to the dockets, select like care and treatment, and you can try to load from EMR. So I hope Yanani imemletea error. Mine is throwing an error because the database that I'm using does not have any data. It's just a dummy database with a lot of issues. But I hope tumeshika. I think for the sake of time, I can maybe take a question or two if there is any. Then we continue to the Windows platform. Then I'll hand it over to Ben Otieno. Any question? Mumelewa ama mmelewa?
Tumeelewa.
Tumeelewa.
So if there is none, let me just give it back to Bernard Otieno to take it over. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Leon. Thanks, Leon, for that nice presentation.
Can you fix your sound? You sound really blurry.
Even the comment I'm seeing later, all of us have been able to do the same from my end, and we are successful, just like Leon.
Bernard, come closer to your mic. Very far.
So I don't know if there is any question. I think the floor is open.
Bernard, your sound is really crappy. Can you fix it, please?
I'm looking at the time, it's already 4, so I don't know if you
Bernard.
consensus here to continue. That will depend on what the team will sound. Can anyone confirm that?
Otieno, hi. You are breaking. I don't think we got the last part.
Still not clear.
No, the sound is a bit bad. Sorry.
It's bad.
If there is, maybe you can mute if there is another person with a session running.
How about that?
Now that is perfect.
Oh, perfect. Good. Thank you. So, yeah, seems like I talked for a long time and hard. So as I was saying, well, first I wanted to thank Leon for that session. I think that's a well-done session. And I also want to believe that everyone has been able to follow and also do the same from your end. So that is one scenario. As I stated when starting, we had 2 scenarios: installation of DWAPI on Windows or installation of DWAPI on Ubuntu. So what we've done right now is installation of DWAPI on Ubuntu using a container called Docker. Okay. So I don't know if there is any question. Anyone can just raise up hand and ask a question if you really need any clarification on anything about DWAPI. If not, then looking at the time, I'm seeing it is already 4:02. I don't know. Yeah, I am going to kind of request for your indulgence so then we can finish up the window version. It should not take us long. So at this point, I'll request you to either close or minimize the virtual box so that now we can concentrate on Windows and do the DWAPI installation on Windows. So Mwariri, I don't know if you are ready. So then you could just take it away quickly.
Yeah, Otieno, I think we can proceed. You got over the earlier hiccup. So I'll just quickly...
Mwariri?
Hello, can you get me, Otieno? Yeah, we can proceed.
Mwariri, we can't hear you.
I'm saying we can proceed. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Otieno, I think you might be having a problem.
Hi, Mwariri.
Otieno, I think the other guys can hear me.
Yes, we can. Yes, I can.
Let me just alert him.
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. Continue.
Okay, sawa. So in the interest of time, we're just going to quickly pick up from where we left off. I'll be sharing my screen in a bit. Yeah, so I think when we left off, we were trying to launch the application. I think the prerequisites messed up with the installation since I already had them. But the configuration bit after you've installed DWAPI is almost similar to what you do on the Ubuntu interface. So once you launch your DWAPI, and I hope for those who had already installed, you can double click on the icon and it should open in your preferred browser. So once you have it and you're at the dashboard, you're going to get the configuration page at the bottom, the DWAPI database connection. So the difference between this and the Ubuntu environment is the provider. So in this case, as opposed to the MySQL, we are going to pick the MS SQL. I'm assuming that by this point you have an instance of SQL running on your machine. In my case, the server is SQL Express 02. The port remains as 1433. You have the username for connecting to the SQL instance and then your password. So I'm just going to confirm the password. Once you do that, you verify the server. So if everything is correct, you're going to get a connection to the server is okay. And then you save on that. It prompts you to restart the DWAPI in order for the changes to take effect. So from our services, you just come, select the DWAPI client and restart the DWAPI. Once that is done, you give it just a couple of a minute or so, from which now you can come and verify your database. So sometimes you find that if you click verify database immediately, you get an error that probably tells you there's a progress event happening. So that is typically because the service is still in the process of restarting. But once it restarts and you verify, you get that the connection to the database is also okay. At this point, you also come and save. And typically when you're prompted to restart the service, just go ahead and do it. So you're going to notice that we are going to restart the service twice. After verifying the connection to the server, then at that point you restart the service, give it some time. Once it's done, you verify the database, and then you save and restart again. What that does, it actually comes to your SQL server and creates the DWAPI for you. So if you check under the databases, you should have a DWAPI DB, as you can see there. So are we together? I hope we are together up to that point. Have I lost anyone, or is everyone okay?
Yes, we are together. We are following.
Together.
Thank you. I think typically for those who have interacted with me, sometimes I keep quiet until I get feedback. But anyway, thank you. So once you do the dashboard, you now come to the EMR settings. So at this point, we are concentrating on the KenyaEMR, but as you can see, you have all the options available. So I'll just pick on the first instance, assuming you're in a facility and you're doing pre-migration and you want to load data. So you have to come and configure your IQ Care. So at this point, you select the particular EMR system, and on the right, you get the protocols that are available. Then you click on the edit button. And from there, you're able to basically put in the server name and also put in your credentials. and the particular DB that you're working with. So I think I'll just pick one of the DBs. You verify. Oh, I think I have the wrong password. So once you verify, you're told the connection is successful, and then you save. So you come and do the same for the IQ Tools DB. You just come on the edit button, put in your server, put in the username and the password. Note that I'm leaving the port blank. That one was already set up when you're doing your SQL configuration. So you do the verification and you save. Once you've done that, then you need to say which of your DBs is which of your EMR systems is a default. So in this case, you select that action. Under the actions is a drop-down arrow, and you click on default. So once you've done that, then you can proceed to the dockets. And at this point, you're able to load EMR. So I'm just going to see maybe HTS, which might not have a lot of data. If you click on load, so it's going to clear and extract and load your data, as you can see. So once that is done, you can proceed to do validations and send the data. However, before you do validations, I wanted us to also see how to configure from a Windows environment a DB that is actually KenyaEMR. So we are going to go back to the dashboard. At this particular point, nothing is going to change because our DWAPI database is still sitting on a Microsoft SQL DB. So we do not change anything here. However, under the configuration and the EMR settings, you now come and select KenyaEMR. So for my particular instance, I have Docker running on my machine. And through Docker, maybe I can quickly just show my DB. So as my workbench is loading, so you come to the KenyaEMR and come to edit the protocols. So in this case, I have, like I said, my KenyaEMR instance running on Docker, and I can access it using my workbench. So if I log into my SQL workbench, you'll be able to see that I have an OpenMRS database. So this is a particular DB for a facility. So once I've verified that you have that, and I have my port for my SQL as well as the IP, I come back to this. So my SQL is sitting on my local host, which is the IP 127.0.0.1. The port is 3306. So the same way we created a user on Linux environment is the same way that we have a user called DWAPI, whose password is DWAPI as well. And once you've done that, you come and verify the settings, and you should be able to connect to MySQL OpenMRS DB, and you go ahead to save that. So once you've done that, you now need to come and set your MR instance as a default instance for that. And upon successful setup, it notifies you that KenyaEMR was set as default successfully. So once you've done that, you come back to your dockets now. So before we saw that we had, so now on this particular DB, if you come and load from the EMR, you're going to notice that the figures will change because it is a different DWAPI. I think when we loaded from IQCare, we had about 70 clients, but from this particular one, we have 495. So that's a different DB. So I can see that we don't have anything flagged or rejected. So I'm just going to quickly load from Ken treatment. So I'll just click on load. It's a small DB. It should load pretty quickly. Yeah, so as we can see, the data is loaded. So for those who have not interacted with DWAPI a lot, I think one of the things that was mentioned during the introduction is that DWAPI assists you in validating your data. And as you can see, the various columns are color-coded. And from the color code, we have a key just below it. So once it's successful, you're told that the load was successful. From the key, you can see what each of those columns means, and we're not going to go into them into detail. I'm hoping that you have a DWAPI instance running and you can go through them. But I want to note and to point out that the column that is named flagged, this means that there is a problem with a record or records in the particular system, and those need to be cleaned. However, it's important to note that that will not prevent your data from being sent to the warehouse. Is in the event that it is under the rejected column. So those are not going to be sent. So in this particular instance, we see that we have 984 under all patients, of which 2 have been flagged. So when we talk about validation and cleaning prior, as you scroll down your page, you get to a place that is called extract details. So each of the 7 extracts that you can see at the top, all patients, adverse events, status, ART patients, the baselines, pharmacy, labs, and visits, those particular tabs are replicated at the bottom. So any of the tabs that has an issue, from the top here, we can see that we have a problem, or rather 2 records have been flagged under all patients. So you come down under the X. Once you click, there's a submenu below it. And the first item on the menu is all the patient records. So this is everything that has been pulled from the EMR. Then we have the second tab, which is called the All Patients Validation Summary. So this validation summary is what highlights the problematic items that need to be cleaned. And as just looking at them, you can see that you have a patient ID, maybe for the first one. And we have the particular summary of the issue. So this tells us that the DOB is on or after the date of enrollment. So that is an issue that would need to be cleaned. It is a logical issue and it gives us a little more information all the way to the name of the facility. So for 2 records, it could be easy to clean, but assuming you have quite a number of records that need to be taken care of, you have this particular button for exporting. And once you click on that, it just pulls your downloads the same to an Excel. So this can now be shared with people who are going to go ahead to do data cleaning. Just opening it, it's just a replica of exactly what we have on that validation summary. So up to that point, do you have any questions?
Yeah, Moriri, one question.
Yes.
But not on the technical bit. This is just with the relevance to the data that we are looking at right now. You say that records being flagged does not necessarily prevent them from being transmitted to the data warehouse, right?
Yes.
So in the event that these corrections are made, there won't be a possibility of duplicity?
Maybe to answer, what happens with the warehouse? Each upload more or less overwrites the previous one. That's why you're never prevented from how many times you can send data. So you can send data, immediately you clean the data, you can upload again.
And so each upload is an overwrite, which means that the amount of data that you send exponentially grows with time.
On the warehouse, we actually have archiving at that particular instance. So at some point, the data is archived.
Yeah, okay. If I have any other question, I'll get back. Thanks.
No problem. Do you have any other clarifications? So I'll take it that there are none. So depending on which particular item has flagged records, just click on the main menu, go to the validation summary, and you're able to view and export the same for cleaning. So once that is done, I think that more or less finishes up with the DWAPI session. But before we move, we close the particular training, I know a lot of people usually complain of sending data and not knowing where it is. There are some people who probably have never worked with DWAPI. So we have a place that we're able to validate what data has been sent. Forgive me, but I will not send this data because it's old. And like we've said, it would overwrite the more current data. For us to verify that we have actually sent data, we have what we call Spot. And I don't know how many of us have interacted with this particular version of Spot. How many of us have seen that URL? If anyone has seen it, please say, I have.
I have.
Okay. I know most of us have been seeing another version of Spot, correct? Can someone tell me what they usually use to verify? Is that more familiar? Or we don't know Spot?
We normally use Spot.
Spot.KenyaEMR.org, correct?
Yes.
Yes, so if you use spot.KenyaEMR.org, I know before we had two versions where there was data.KenyaEMR.org on port 4700, and this was showing you the care and treatment data. And there was also data.KenyaEMR on port 5700 that was basically handling HTS data. So the two, before we had DWAPI for care and treatment and DWAPI for HTS. But currently we have spot.KenyaHMIS.org, which basically has put all the particular dockets together. So once you upload your data and you want to verify, you can come here and just confirm, and it will give you all the dockets. Can someone volunteer a facility that has recently uploaded all the 3 dockets? Anybody who is confident enough to volunteer their facility? I am starting to suspect I might be alone. Okay.
No, you're not alone. We are following.
Okay, I'd like someone, sorry? I'd like someone to volunteer a facility so that we can just see how, once you have all the dockets uploaded, we're able to see. Okay, I think I'll just pick one, the one that I was actually using. So if you have uploaded all the dockets and the time it was uploaded, you're able to just narrow down to the facility and you can see all the 3 dockets that have been uploaded. So that is how you're able to verify that your data actually was received on the data warehouse. So I don't know if there are any questions on this. If none,
Yes,
I'd like.
question.
Yes.
Like you see Shalom Community Hospital, eh?
Yes.
I'm seeing this 497, but why is received blank?
So that is a very good question, and I was expecting it. So I think we have noted that sometimes we get a lag when some of this data is uploaded, and it is something that is being actually reviewed. However, if at all you are to encounter this and you needed to confirm, you can always reach out to us just to verify the same.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you have another question? I think if none, I'd like to hand it back to Otieno, maybe to wind up the session for us. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Mariri, for that. I think time is moving so fast for us, so I guess we may just want to sum it up. Though, I think, Mariri, there's a question from Hastings asking, how does the validation summary translate to the data quality, completeness, and accuracy in data warehouse? I don't know if you'd like to respond to that.
Sorry, Otieno, what was the question again?
Someone is asking how the validation summary on the DWAPI translates to the data quality, completeness, and accuracy in the data warehouse.
Yes, so it actually does affect the completeness and accuracy, because if you are to look at something like maybe the records that have been flagged on dates, so you could find that you have all the data, but it's not accurate. So ultimately, it will translate to those checks on the data warehouse.
All right, thanks. And I guess everyone understands that DWAPI is not only a tool for uploading data, but you can use it to identify gaps within the data that then you can clean up and make corrections before you re-upload. So that way, if you keep on cleaning your data using this tool, it will help you to keep on identifying the gaps. As you work on those gaps progressively, your data becomes much more cleaner, and that means the data that ends up in data warehouse becomes much more accurate. So in a way, it helps in the entire continuum. It helps in improving the quality of data in the national data warehouse. Okay, so I don't know if there is any further questions before we end this session. Okay. Silence means no more questions. So I think at this point, I just want to kind of thank everyone for being with us until this time. So tomorrow we are going to have a very interesting session on IL, and I'd like to invite Diana, if at all you are here, to just kind of give us a snippet of what we are likely to experience tomorrow during the IL. Diana, kindly proceed.
Thanks, Ben. And this is to thank all the facilitators also and the participants for attending this training and being there up to the last minute. So like Ben said, tomorrow's session will be slightly different. I know we've been having trainings from yesterday, but tomorrow's session would be different in that we'll have a combined training and also meeting. So we'd have try to split the 2 hours so that the first hour we just have a meeting targeting IL specifically, interoperability layer. I know some of us have interacted with that layer. So we'll be having in attendance the CDC team. That would be both the Kisumu CDC and Nairobi CDC. And we'll also be having mHealth. mHealth is an organization that is supporting the mobile applications like mLab, T4A, and Ushauri. So they'll also have a session where they're going to share with us their products. So this is to urge all of us if we can keep time tomorrow, because the other people have meetings from 4 p.m. And being that we are combining both a meeting and a training, it would be good if we can start at exactly 2. I know yesterday and today we've been starting slightly late. Tomorrow we'd want to start exactly at 2 because we have a team that will have to leave at 3:50 to join another meeting. So, and we'll also have some of the partners who've been using us IL to just share their experiences IL. So you see, we have a mixture of a lot of objectives that we want to cover tomorrow, and we have a very short time to do that. So if we can join the meeting, the people will be joined who will have joined by 2. We will start. The other guys will just find us on the way, and it would be very good if we can start all of us at the same time, so that we don't miss out on what we have planned for tomorrow. So kindly urge your colleagues to join early, and then we can finish on time. Back to you, Otieno.
Yeah, thank you very much, Diana, for that. So I guess you had it from Diana. Tomorrow's session will be pretty much interesting. So then let's all attend and start it at the same time. That is at exactly 2 p.m. Okay, so at this point, I think we have come to an end. I just want to appreciate all the facilitators. That is Leon, Mariri, and yours truly. Then I want to also thank everyone who has been responding to questions in the background, those who have been logging into AnyDesk and TeamViewer to support respective participants. Thank you very much, and keep that spirit. Tomorrow we'll do the same. So thank you very much and have a great evening. Meet you again tomorrow. Bye.
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 Bye.